In the spring of 2000, two college students at New York University were trying to solve a problem that would define the next decade of social media. Dennis Crowley and Alex Reinert were tired of losing track of their friends in Manhattan's sprawling nightlife scene. Text messaging was still clunky, coordinating meetups required endless phone calls, and by the time you figured out where everyone was gathering, the party had moved somewhere else. Their solution was elegantly simple. What if you could send one text message to all your friends whenever you arrived somewhere, and they could respond if they wanted to join you? This wasn't just another college project. This was the birth of location sharing as we know it today. Crowley had been obsessing over location-based technology since his undergraduate days, writing his master's thesis on how digital networks could enhance real-world social interactions. The concept they developed would eventually become Dodgeball, launched in 2003 as one of the first location-based social networks in existence. The service worked through SMS texting, which was revolutionary for its time. Users would text their location to a short code, and Dodgeball would automatically notify friends within a 10-block radius. The system would also alert you if friends of friends were nearby, expanding your social circle organically. Within months of launching, Dodgeball had attracted thousands of users in New York City, transforming how young professionals and students navigated urban social life. The app launched in only 3 cities initially, but quickly expanded to 22 metropolitan areas across the United States. What made Dodgeball groundbreaking wasn't just the technology, but the social behavior it created. Before Dodgeball, checking in somewhere required deliberate communication with specific people. Dodgeball made location sharing passive and ambient. You could broadcast your whereabouts to your entire network with a simple text message, and serendipitous encounters became commonplace. The service tracked over 100,000 check-ins within its first year of operation. Users developed their own etiquette around the platform. Some checked in everywhere they went, others only at bars and restaurants, and power users would check in strategically to coordinate elaborate social gatherings across multiple venues. The platform created a new form of social currency based on being in the right place at the right time. The success of Dodgeball caught the attention of tech giants who were just beginning to understand the potential of mobile social networking. In May 2005, Google acquired Dodgeball for an undisclosed sum, reportedly in the low millions. For Crowley and Reinert, the acquisition seemed like validation of their vision and an opportunity to scale their innovation to millions of users worldwide. Google was already experimenting with mapping technology that would eventually become Google Maps, and Dodgeball seemed like a perfect complement to their location-based ambitions. The acquisition was announced with typical Google fanfare, promising to integrate Dodgeball's social features with Google's growing suite of web services. But something went wrong almost immediately after the acquisition. Instead of accelerating Dodgeball's development, Google seemed to lose interest in the product entirely. The engineering team that had built Dodgeball was scattered across different Google projects, and no dedicated resources were allocated to improving the service. For 4 years, from 2005 to 2009, Dodgeball remained essentially unchanged. The user interface stayed the same, no new features were added, and the service wasn't integrated with any other Google products despite repeated promises. Meanwhile, smartphones were becoming mainstream, social media was exploding, and location-based services were becoming increasingly sophisticated. Dodgeball, once the pioneer in its space, began to feel antiquated and forgotten. The neglect wasn't accidental. Internal Google documents later revealed that the company viewed Dodgeball as an experimental acquisition rather than a strategic product. Google was simultaneously developing its own location features for other services and saw little reason to maintain a standalone social networking app. The company was also struggling with how to monetize location-based services, and Dodgeball's model of simple check-ins didn't align with Google's advertising-driven revenue strategy. Dennis Crowley grew increasingly frustrated with Google's inaction, repeatedly proposing updates and improvements that were ignored or deprioritized. By 2007, both co-founders had left Google, citing creative differences and the company's unwillingness to invest in Dodgeball's potential. While Google let Dodgeball stagnate, the location-based social networking space exploded around them. In 2009, Dennis Crowley launched Foursquare, essentially building the next generation of Dodgeball from scratch. Foursquare introduced gamification elements like badges and mayorships, integrated with smartphone GPS instead of relying on SMS, and attracted millions of users within months of launching. Facebook launched Facebook Places in 2010, directly copying Dodgeball's core functionality. Gowalla, Looped, and dozens of other location-sharing services emerged, all building on the foundation that Dodgeball had established years earlier. Google eventually launched Google Latitude in 2009, their own location-sharing service that bore striking similarities to Dodgeball's original concept. The irony of Google's mishandling of Dodgeball became even more apparent as location-based services became central to the mobile internet revolution. Every major social media platform eventually integrated check-in functionality. Instagram added location tags to photos, Twitter embedded location data in tweets, and even LinkedIn allowed users to share their professional whereabouts. The concept Crowley and Raynert had pioneered in their NYU dorm room became a fundamental feature of digital communication. Google itself invested billions of dollars in location-based services, acquiring companies like Waze for over $1 billion and making location data central to their advertising platform. They had owned the originator of this entire category and simply let it die through neglect. In January 2009, Google officially shut down Dodgeball, posting a brief blog entry thanking users for their participation and recommending they try Google Latitude instead. The shutdown notice was posted with minimal fanfare, treating the death of location sharing's pioneer as a minor housekeeping task. By that time, Dodgeball had processed over 10 million check-ins and had influenced an entire generation of location-based startups. But Google's mismanagement had rendered it irrelevant in the market it had created. The timing was particularly painful for early users who had spent years building social networks on the platform, only to see their data and connections vanish overnight. No migration path was offered to Google Latitude, and users who had invested years in building their Dodgeball social graphs lost everything. The Dodgeball story represents one of the most significant missed opportunities in tech history. Google had acquired the foundational technology and team behind location-based social networking at exactly the right moment, as smartphones were emerging and social media was becoming mainstream. Instead of nurturing and evolving the service, they let it atrophy while competitors built billion-dollar companies using the same concepts. Dennis Crowley's Foursquare eventually sold to a major corporation for hundreds of millions of dollars, while location-based advertising became a multi-billion-dollar industry that Google now dominates through other means. The company that bought the future of location sharing managed to completely waste it, demonstrating how even tech giants can fail to recognize revolutionary innovations happening within their own walls. Dodgeball's death wasn't just the end of one startup, it was the burial of a vision that was years ahead of its time, killed not by market forces or technical limitations, but by corporate indifference and strategic blindness.